with Paul Daner, Mark Shalafoo, from listener questions to some running gags. Insider stories, ambush life, that dad life, and respect for flags. Kick off the weekend, alright? It's the Growler Friday Show. It's Who Dey Light.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of Who Dey Light. Paul Daner Jr., Mark Shalafoo, here with you on a Friday, the last Friday of the regular season, Mark, the regular season. The playoffs are still right around the corner. All you need to do is hit that 3-team parlay, and off you go.
Yeah, and I think that at least for this week, you got to stay optimistic, right? There's going to be plenty of time to be the Debbie Downer and like, all right, who do we blame for this and that? I'm still fired up. Here we go. 3-team parlay. I hit a 4-team parlay last night on my BetMGM app, and so it can be done. It can be done. It's within striking distance now. I feel like it's going to happen. We'll see. What flag are you flying today? Something optimistic?
So I'm holding on to the New Year's flag. I don't know, like the timing on the Happy New Year flag is an interesting one, and because how far into it am I still wishing people Happy New Year? But it's a flag wish, so it kind of gives you a little bit of a grace period. I feel like it's solid through the weekend. Monday morning, kids go back to school, everything gets back to normal. I think then we switch it out and we say, okay, enough Happy New Year. Let's move forward. But for now, I'm still here to say Happy New Year, everybody. And I feel like that's as optimistic as I can do.
I don't know what comes after the Happy New Year flag. January is not a big flag period. Do you have like a President's Day flag or what happens next?
No, well, that you just go off gut at that point. I mean, you're going to go off script a little bit. You know, there's a chance a Cincinnati flag if I'm feeling particularly proud of the city. There could be just Oakley. I could represent Oakley. I could go a number of different directions. We'll just see. You see how the weekend goes. We'll see what happens and see what kind of a mood we end up in. I could throw back to school up.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a long time, a long break.
This is where the real flag guys, they really kind of separate themselves from the amateurs. Any amateur can throw up a Christmas flag, a Happy New Year flag, but what you do in these down weeks is what really puts you in that upper echelon of flag bearers.
It defines who you are. Yeah, you got to make the mundane special. But outside of that, I do want to remind everybody, there is a chance that we have not had our last live show of the season. If the Bengals make the playoffs, we will have another one down at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar at the Banks. But you don't need to wait for that to go down there. Any big event, any big game, and Lord knows there are tons of them going on right now, including Bengals Steelers, 8 o'clock Saturday night. If you're looking for a place to go watch that game or any big one, all the screens, delicious food, great deals on drinks. It's a great place to go. Make sure you head down to Nation Kitchen. BetMGM right down there at the Banks. Maybe we'll see you down there again. Maybe we won't, but you might just run into us randomly because certainly Jay's going to be down there trying to win second chance drawings. We'll be down there having drinks, and I'll be looking for that queso burger. I'm not going to be able to get away from that because the season's over.
You can't really go wrong with any of those burgers. I know that Charlie Goldsmith was big on the turkey burger. That was his big rec for me, and I had that. That was a delight. Even the breakfast was good when we had our morning shows.
Yeah.
And it's what makes it fun, too, is not only is it a great place to watch a game, but when you're actually – I know there are a lot of gamblers out there, and it's so easy to do from your phone, but it does feel old school to walk up to the cage and make a bet, and then you leave with real cash in your hand, not just another number in your account on your online app. No, you get the real cash, and that's what's extra special about that.
Yeah, you're a real cash. You're a tangible guy. I need to feel it, smell it.
I need the result of my brilliance. When Jay gives me a tip that hits, I need to leave with that stack of cash.
Well, we'll have plenty of those as we go through. And again, we may be back there. Maybe we won't. We will see. Story of the week for you, Mark. What do you got?
Well, I feel because we're at the point now where it's still sort of a long shot to close out this 12-team parlay, but I feel like we need one of those over-the-top proclamations and statements like, if the Bengals make the playoffs, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I don't know what it should be, but I feel like we need one of those big headline grabbing, he's going to, do this big thing. he's going to dive into the Ohio River. I'm not going to do that, but
yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Right. I'm trying to look back at what were some of those like good fan initiation rituals that we had suggested to us in the spring, and like using one of those and like really putting myself out there.
I remember there was a lot of things that involved cans of Skyline chili that I feel like you don't want to do, whether it was pouring them over your head or jumping into piles of them.
Shotgunning it.
Yeah, that was also part of it. I don't think that's a great idea, but that it's something that you could consider if you're really serious about this. Why can't you just like jump in someone's pool? Go somewhere where someone has a pool and go for that.
Yeah, I mean, it still feels remote enough that I'd feel pretty comfortable going out there a little bit. But yeah, shotgunning the can of Skyline chili is probably not the way to go, because that would just ruin Skyline chili for me forever. Even if it plays out, to be happy about the playoffs, but then be sworn off chili for the rest of my life.
There's no reason to ruin a moment. If you're happy about the outcome of a game, there's no reason to ruin it by pouring a can of chili on your own head. It just seems unnecessary. You can still find other ways to celebrate. What have you thought about a hug for your loved ones? What about that? Could that just be a direction you could go? It doesn't have to be wildly uncomfortable for you.
I know, but you gotta get the headlines. That's how all those, you see the sports talk guy that's like jumping off a van, doing the table dive. Maybe that's what I have to do. Maybe I got to do like the Bills, since they'll probably be playing the Bills, do that Bills table dive, but eating the coney, putting that all together.
It's hard to get people. It's hard to get people to give you a ton of TikTok views for a video of you hugging your children.
Exactly.
It's just not. It doesn't have that same viral notion that you need.
It doesn't propel the podcast forward, and that's what we're about, and taking it to the next level. Although if I did like a big table dive, even eating the coney, putting the Cincinnati twist on it, I'm not going to be in Buffalo. So that's just like a sober table dive in like a very calm setting. It's not like a fun, we're going crazy at the tailgate, let's go. It's just a normal Thursday afternoon, and now there's some guy jumping through a table for some reason. But maybe that's the answer.
No, I think you just stay away. I think you stay away from doing that. I think you don't need to go over the top. I think you just go and have some appreciation for your family that supported you through these tough times.
We will take any suggestions to the growlerpodcast@gmail.com, and I'll go on the record with whatever it's going to be before the game, or before Sunday's games, at least. Whether it is just a good hug for the family or something a little bit crazier, we'll figure that out.
I love it. Let's see. For me, here's what I have. This was I have sort of drummed up over the years this statistic because it stuck out to me. Like, it just felt like a lot of AFC North teams really struggle on the road in these primetime games. And I looked it up at one point and I was like, wow, it was unbelievable. Like, over and over and over again, AFC North teams lost these games in primetime on the road. They're now 2-13 in the last 15 for every AFC North road team, no matter who they were, whether it was the Bengals, whether it was the Steelers, whether it was Cleveland, wherever they went. It didn't matter. Case in point, Pittsburgh goes to Cleveland, who's literally not trying to win this year, and they lost in Cleveland in the snow on a Thursday night earlier this year. And so what does the league do? They just delightfully drop the stat right into my lap yet again for a chance to wheel it back out this week. The Bengals now have actually been put into 5 of the last 8 of these situations, and they haven't had a home divisional primetime game to be the beneficiaries of this thing since 2020, since the Von Bell, Juju Smith-Schuster game. And so here it was, back in my lap again to trot it back out one more time. I'm sure Bengals fans aren't thrilled about it, but I enjoy the stat because it's become kind of an incredible trend that just goes on and on and on, and seems to prove itself out over and over again. Maybe this will be the week that the Bengals can break it.
I mean, I do like to play the victim card whenever I get the chance. So the fact that I can complain about that the Bengals never get the home one, and they're always on the road, this isn't fair.
Well, that on top of just the sadness over, and I think every single show that we have this week, and we have many, I've bemoaned the 5th primetime road game here this season, more than any team. No beat writer, forget team. No beat writer has ever in the history of the NFL been subjected to this kind of treatment, malpractice, disrespect, to have to do 5 primetime road games when everybody knows how terrible they are on us. But yet here we are. And we're doing it again. But it's not about me, of course.
It is. It is about you.
I would never make it about me.
It's gosh, and that's not fair to your entire profession. I mean, how do you think it would feel to be like an NBA beat writer, where all of your games are pretty late? You guys have the cushiest job of just about any sports writer because you're a lot of 1 p.m. Sunday games. You're done before 8 p.m.
I don't appreciate that take, Mark. I don't like it.
That's the hottest take of the show.
I get it. Other sports have it harder than us, but I am here to complain about my particular situation. All right.
Yeah,
don't try to make it sound like it's not that bad. I would never really complain. It's the atmospheres are so charged. They're so fun. When you're actually doing it, it's great. Like the game itself, prime time on the road, these atmospheres are very cool. I love seeing every team's, game day experience in those situations. They're always pretty live. It's just the return home where you're like, it's like anybody. You can like everything about your job, but there's always the one thing. It's like, I gotta try to go home or travel across country on no sleep. I don't like that part, but the rest of it was awesome.
That part's brutal. At least you're not like a newspaper writer where it's like you got to have all your copy in by 11:01 p.m. and you got to like write 6 different fake stories and then pick the one that's closest to the truth.
Done that, yes. I actually had a season where it was myself, Jim Ozarski. We were on the beat together. I would do the clean game story, and he would do the analysis one week, and then the next week we would flip. Now the game story is always the one where you're just subject to just awful situations, depending on how the game goes. Well, that year, every other game was just a disastrous, like surprise ending. It was just it was just called the Daner Gamer season. That's all it was. And anytime I had the gamer, you knew absolute insanity was going to break through.
Yeah, that's such a bummer when, you've got everything kind of mapped out in your head and you're like, okay, I can actually pull this off. And then you just have to shred it all up and come up with it on the fly. But that's why you get paid the big bucks. That's why.
Is that what it is?
The richest
is that what's
profession.
Happening here? I feel like it's not.
The newspapers, come on. That was big business. Those guys are all super wealthy now. That's why you don't see newspapers. They just don't have the drive anymore to really get out there because print made them so fabulously wealthy.
Yeah, it's really cool what's happened to the industry. It's really great. You can just sense how well everyone's doing.
How optimistic it is for the future. Yes. Everybody loves the media.
Everybody loves the media, and everybody loves picking up a nice newspaper. You know what I mean?
Oh, I still do.
Holding it out, sitting on a park bench with your old newspaper and your coffee. It's great how that's not gone away.
That might be my biggest old man take is I still like reading the printed word. Like I'll still read a physical book. I'm not the audiobook guy. That miss me with that. That's not reading. I don't need more screen time on a Kindle or something like that. That's what my phone is for. I spend plenty of time on that, but I'll still read the printed word. It feels like going to a record store used to, it's very old school and so interesting of me.
God bless you. It was great to see that industry collapse around my career, but I'm glad that we've all come back from it. I'm glad that we've all come back from it. All right. It's time for us to bring in our great friend of the program and great friend to anybody that needs a house, that is selling a house, buying a house. Eric Stanyo, the Stanyo Clanyo from Keller Williams. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, Paul and Mark? Happy New Year, guys. Good to see you.
Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to you. I'm excited for this. We've been going through these all season long. Yeah. It's been a minute since we've had you here in-house with us. So it's good to be able to look at your smiling face and your background that looks so good on your YouTube page that still has more subscribers than me. I thought I hoped to catch you by the end of the season. We did not. That's because you keep growing with all this good content you keep doing. So, good for you on that. I'm not happy about it, but good for you on that.
It's not a competition, Paul. It is a competition. Okay.
It is absolutely a competition.
We're helping each other.
It's only a competition if we win. Otherwise, it's just friendly. We're all helping each other. But if we get the lead, it's a competition again.
Okay, yeah. I get it.
And a reminder, it's the number one YouTube channel in Cincinnati for real estate. So if you have any questions about whether it's, markets, schools, neighborhoods, types of houses, trends, it's all up there, crushing it over there. So congrats to you on that, by the way.
Thank you.
What do you got? You got something for me?
Yes, absolutely. I do. Crazy time of the season. Last time I was here, to recap, what I was trying to do was protect my heart. Okay. Protect the Growl Pals' hearts.
Yeah, I remember this.
And we were going with the darkest timeline. What was the worst possible scenario that could happen? You laid out, hey, the Bengals keep winning and the defense still sucks and all the young guys are bad. And that's pretty much like exactly what has happened. Like slight improvement. I would only add to that. I was emailing you. I was like, the only difference is that happens and everything breaks our way, falls our way, and we have some insane meltdown on the Pittsburgh game, and it involves Joey Porter again, like 2015 in some way, Joey Porter Jr., right? But here's the deal, right? I'm ready. Paul, I'm ready to hope again. I'm ready to love again. I'm ready to have my heart
ready to love again.
Yes, right. I mean, how can you not love this team? They're freaking amazing to watch. They're, MVP season, Triple Crown Jamar. And so I'm all in. All right. I'm away from the darkest timeline and no hope. And I'm fully hope now. Okay. All the way in. And sorry, Growl Pals, but I know you're all there with me. We were all yelling at that Broncos game, like probably way too much. So there it is. All right. Now we're here. We're near the end of this 12-leg parlay that could hit.
Only three legs left.
Only 3 legs left. And so, two-part question for you. All right. Question number 1, as a professional writer, I need your opinion. Did the NFL script writers, with this crazy Act 2 that they did with the Bengals with less than 1% chance to make the playoffs, in the season where Joe and Jamar go back to Louisiana to win the Super Bowl, and don't forget,
so much
they've
drama.
never lost a game while playing also with Cade York. Although Cade has really tried to make
I was going to say, somebody doesn't feel as invested in that record.
Okay, but they're on their way to Louisiana. So question, are the script writers, should they get a raise with this Act 2, or did they jump the shark?
I mean, if Burrow and company do sneak in, I think they need a raise. I mean, for the ultimate plot twist and the building of tension, and when you can get someone to release hope and give up essentially and be left for dead, it's like this is they were buried alive, right? It was Uma Thurman. Okay, in the casket, she's working on the technique, and he Kill Bill people. I don't know if it's Kill Bill,
that's a reach, but you got it.
It's a reach, but she comes up, and then she comes back, and she slays everyone, right?
Yes.
And so this could be it. This could be the Kill Bill moment, or no, it's actually just that person was just dead the whole time in the coffin. So really, to be determined on how good this script is.
We'll find out. Okay, second question: if we actually do get in, which it could happen. It could happen. Jay's optimistic.
Yes.
What do you think are the chance? Like, how do you compare this team to the 21 team? Because we kind of all felt when they beat Vegas in 21, we were like, oh my God, they beat Vegas. Like, great. And then they just kept going. And we're like, what is happening? And this year, it feels, worse defense, but better offense. I mean, how would you compare those 2 years if we do get in?
Well, 21, because of what they did to get in by beating Kansas City at home, was very different. That was a very different feel. And that was a feel of like, this team can't be stopped. They're so good. There was the unknown because of the whole playoff thing hanging over them, but they were a much better team, an accomplished team that had found ways to win big games. They still don't feel like a team that's really finding ways to win big games. They're pretty close to finding ways to lose them the other night, even though they beat Denver. And in the Dallas game had the same type of thing. I mean, I don't feel like you felt that convincing moment from them to be that type of a well-rounded team that could really make a run. And maybe they come out and just whip Pittsburgh on Saturday and find a way in, and you feel different about it. But, I don't know if they've turned that. I would be very hesitant to go there and say, I think you knew for sure going into that 21 playoffs. Like, you had doubt because they were the Bengals in the drought and everything, but you knew that this team was just as good as anybody in the AFC because they had just proved it by beating the Chiefs. So that's a big difference for me. I don't think that they have the same panache.
Well, you're trying to squash my hope, Paul, but I'm not going to.
Some have said I've been doing this for a while now on people, and I feel bad. I've sort of had to go full Paul Downer Jr. on this because I haven't quite seen it with this team since even as they started winning, and that's just my opinion. Obviously, many differ, and I appreciate people wanting to embrace the hope and hug their kids or pour chili on their head or do whatever they're going to do. I appreciate that, but I just don't personally
at the
see
end
it. I don't. Yeah, exactly. Or cry in a corner, or open yourself up to be hurt again at the worst possible instant. Facing a long shot 3-team parlay, you're like, "Yep, now this is my moment. This is my moment to open my heart back up again." I appreciate that, though.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
That's right.
Can I give you a question?
My wife said, you should pick a different hobby.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think a lot of wives have been saying that. Can I have one for you?
Let's do it.
The new year happens. Everyone has a new year resolution, right? And it's like, I'm gonna lose weight. I'm gonna declutter. We're gonna whatever. A lot of people are like, we're selling this house this year. Like, this is it, right? Or so if someone made that resolution and they have hopes of making it a couple of weeks into January with it at least, where do they start? Like, where do you start if your resolution is like, man, we gotta buy and sell a house? Like, let's do it. This is the year.
This is the year. Yeah, now's the time to prep for that. I mean, if you're selling a house, you want to time that in the peak of the season, which is going to be spring, early summer. So now is a time where, who doesn't put down declutter my basement as a New Year's resolution? Everyone does that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, now's the time. What you should do, get a real estate agent in there to look at your house. There's probably some projects. Paul, I think even you have some projects going on right now.
I have one happening literally. If you're watching on YouTube, it's right here. A man is cutting through a wall right here. If you've heard these noises during today's podcast, you've known I've been trying to limit them. But it's happening right now.
And it's not even someone doing work. It's just somebody messing with you just to try and make it harder on you.
It's just my wife. She's just kind of sick of all these episodes.
Now's the time of year to get those things done, get those projects out of the way so that the house can look pretty and sell for the most money in the spring. And if you're a buyer, now's the time to probably reach out to like a lender. If you got some things you need to tweak for your credit score, you can do that in the months leading up to the buying season as well. So it's a good time to prep right now. It's usually a downtime of the year. There's not a whole lot going on. But if you're looking to buy or sell this year, now's a good time to get prepped for it.
Love that. Always great advice. And if you need to buy or sell a house or prep or need one of those old real estate agents that Daniel was just talking about, we know one. We know a guy. Go to info@teamstanyo.com for your email there. And you can also go www.teamstanyo.com to connect. That is SZTANYO. And of course, make sure you're following that YouTube channel. Is there a way that I can go on instead of follow? I can have a number that takes away a couple hundred from you. Like can I do that? Is there an algorithm for that?
It's like the robber button.
Yeah, that's what I need. I need to hack your system to try to bring your number down a little bit. It's too high. I'm uncomfortable with it. All right. It's been awesome this season though, man. Appreciate it. Good times, great tips as always, and take care of your heart. Okay.
Yes.
Don't open it up at the worst possible moments all the time. Right?
I appreciate that. Thank you guys. See you.
Have a good one. All right. Much thanks to our good friend, Eric Stanyo. He's hooked us up all year. Tons of great tips. Great conversation. Always love having him on. Been such a fun partner to have on with us. And I've certainly enjoyed him on these shows.
Great hats that he brought to the live show. And everybody loved those. They were big fans.
Yeah. One of the first items off the table every single week, the Stanyo hats.
Are you smarter than a Stanyo? And that was a big hit too. People won prizes in that game.
They did. Do you have some questions for me?
All right, let's dive into the mailbag here. You can send your questions to the growlerpodcast@gmail.com. Growl Pals came through with some good ones this week. We're going to start one off here. This one's got a long intro, so lock in for this.
I'm in.
He says, since 2022, we let Bates walk, then we let DJ leave, then we didn't sign T. Higgins, and we didn't extend Jamar. Trey was even unhappy this last offseason. We're not retaining our best players outside of Joe Burrow. Kind of big. His frugalness seems reminiscent of Bengals of old. At the same time, teams like Philly signed their stars early and even were able to bring in Saquon Barkley. But I've heard Paul say several times over the last 5-ish years, the Bengals have made significant improvements in how they operate. 2 questions. What were those key changes? And going forward, what do you see as the most important development or 2 that would signify Bengals management moving in the right direction? I feel like that second part is a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, a few of the key change. I mean, they've been involved in free agency is one of the biggest ones. And with Burrow's contract, they were willing to put down the big guarantees. Now, it was at a one-off or whatever, to be determined. But I think just diving into free agency, understanding that has to be a part of the equation, and initially certainly having some success there, even though they haven't in the last couple of years, was one of the big. And if you're just strictly talking about roster construction, which this mostly is, I think that's been a big part of it. I mean, the big step is, figuring out whether it's how they're going to start restructuring these contracts. That is more of a compromise where players don't just find them absolute non-starters, which is, Jesse Bates, you had that. DJ Reader wasn't quite that. That was a little different. But they were sort of trying to just stick to their number there and were pretty stubborn about what they wanted to do with DJ Reader as well, but for different reasons. But I think it's just finding more flexibility in how they structure some of these contracts in order to keep some of their key pieces involved is something they've never really been willing to get away from. And that's higher guarantees, which the rest of the league is doing. That's guaranteed money in year 2, which the rest of the year is doing. Stuff that they just haven't really been willing to do. It's the last step, and it's caused them to lose some good players, and it could cause them to lose T. Higgins. It played a role in them not signing T. Higgins earlier if they wanted to do a long-term extension with him. So that's kind of been, that to me is the next thing, where if they're gonna join the rest of the league in a lot of ways, that certainly is going to have to find a way to be a part of it.
I certainly feel like I wish they had gotten that part figured out earlier of all these big changes. They did the in-season trade this year. That's huge. That never happens. But yes. I wish we had Jamar locked up instead of having, an extra running back in the mix. Like, it would have been great to do those in a different order. But, it is what it is at this point. Our next question is from Damon. He says, as always, great job to everyone on the pod. Excellent start to this email.
Love that.
I'm a longtime listener. Truly appreciate the time and effort it takes to provide fans with such great insight and info, and to sprinkle in some great humor along the way. With that, I've got a Bengals question and a little bit of an ambush question, although I don't know if this quite raises to ambush light status. First is Bengals question. There's been a lot of talk recently about Lou simplifying the defense to help the young players play faster. Just curious, why did it take almost 2 full seasons for him to figure that out?
I asked this question rather incredulously to Mike Hilton Tuesday, because we were talking about, the simplification, how much that's helped. And I said, can I just ask you something very bluntly here? Why wait until it's over, essentially, to simplify? Why did that take so long, do you think? And there really wasn't much of an answer there. I don't know. There was a thought that they'll figure it out. They'll get there with this system. Guys can handle it. That certainly seems to be a massive miscalculation in terms of how to adjust as things were going totally sideways here. To not get down to bare bones and fully simplify earlier does seem to have been the major issue. And the season was basically over. And if that really is the answer, I don't think it's as easy as that. I think and simplification is an oversimplification of what's happening here a little bit, but it is true. I mean, that has been talked about a lot, and it does seem like that's where you go when things are going haywire and guys are doing the wrong thing. start back at the bare bones and then gradually start building back on top of it. And that doesn't appear to be what happened here until it was almost too late and they had so many young guys they were really forced to play that way.
Yeah, it seems like more desperation than anything. Just throw some stuff at the wall, see what hits, maybe. But here's part 2 of this. Does Paul ever fly a specific NFL team flag? And if so, which one and why?
I don't have a
That'd be so weird if you did. If you're just randomly flying a Houston Texans flag one day.
I have a football tailgate flag that celebrates tailgating that we use for the beginning of the season. It's got like chips and grills and footballs and whatever, like a random field goal post. It's like on it. It's a pretty silly flag, but I don't have like another team flag. I mean, my other teams would be, OU. I have an OU flag when they have a big game going on, of course, and Everton for soccer. If I ever have a reason to fly their flag, they don't give me many. But there are a few others, but I don't have like another NFL team that I would fly now.
Our next question is, he's wondering if it's too early to add Chuck Fizzle and Miles Murphy to Duke's ever-increasing pile of draft busts. And do you think Miles Murphy has a chance to replace Jackson Carman as the #1 Zach Taylor era draft bust?
Miles Murphy is far from Jackson Carman status, and that's not saying that Miles Murphy has been good or great or any of the superlatives. Jackson Carman didn't care. He was uninterested in getting better. And that showed itself every year when he was given opportunity after opportunity to win jobs and was unprepared to do so. Miles Murphy seems to want it enough. I mean, it like legitimately hurts him. You can tell it's genuine that he's not producing at the levels he wants to. I think you see flashes. He's just not getting off of blocks. Like he'll move guys. You can see some of his power and speed a little bit. But he doesn't get off to get the production. I mean, he'll collapse the pocket some. It's not giving the full production that you'd want. You never even really saw much of flashes. There was like one flash from Jackson Carman that one year in the playoffs when he was forced in. I think that there's still hope for Miles. I don't think that you're going to classify him as that level. But obviously it needs to happen fast. And this was a discouraging year. But I'm not putting him in that bucket yet. Chuck Fizzle. Okay. I mean, cute. He's been hurt constantly. I think that's going to probably be his downfall in this league is that he can't stay healthy. And what do you, he hasn't like he's blown opportunity. He hasn't gotten opportunity. And almost all of it has been because he's been hurt. He's been okay as a returner when he's been in there. I mean, he's had a touchdown and a punt return in his career in only 2 seasons. So he's not like he hasn't contributed in special teams. That said, I mean, he's a 4th-round pick. They don't all hit. I'm not going to I don't like crushing people for day 3 picks. Like day 3 picks aren't designed to hit. You need to hit on a percentage. Okay. So you got to hit some. Chase Brown, Andre Yosevich, 2 hits from that same draft class on day 3. That's good, right? You get a couple of actual starters, contributors from day 3. You did something right. And so I look at those more as a grouping than I would look specifically at one player and say, you're a bust. You say all your day 3 picks, you didn't find one hit. That's a bust. That's a bust draft. I wouldn't necessarily just pinpoint one 4th-round pick.
Although missing on that 1st-round pick is definitely that's painful. That is very painful. How many sacks does he need for you to even hit your midseason bet at this point, or prediction? Not a bet, I guess. But you put him at 4?
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, 5? He needs to finish 2nd. I think he would need 5 or 6. I don't.
5 or 6 sacks in the Steelers game. It's still possible. That's probably
whatever
a longer
size
odds
number has risen to. I need one more than that. So,
yeah, I think that's probably longer odds than the 12-team parlay was at the beginning.
No doubt about that. Yeah, I'll wear that. I'll wear that. I missed. I really did not see this coming from Miles.
I mean, I would have loved to have seen it because they desperately needed him to be that guy. I mean, kind of surprising that Osai has started to round into form in a way that I didn't necessarily
imagine if Miles Murphy was doing what Joseph Osai is doing right now. This is what you thought you would get. You thought that Miles Murphy would give you this Joseph Osai season where every week he's getting a sack. I mean, you would feel so good about what you have there if that were the case. But it's not.
Unfortunately, it's not. Our next question, we're going to stay with this defense a little bit. So this is from Paul C. He says, it's been fun, but I don't expect the Bengals to get in. And that's not the level of optimism that we're trying to embrace on this week's episode. Even Dark Stanio took a positive turn this week. But he goes on to say, crazy Tanner Hudson's fumble in week 1 could have been the play, along with 25 others, to keep them out of the postseason. He says, while I anxiously await your 8-part series on re-signing T. Higgins, he does want your sober thoughts on the rookie class. The defense still needs a ton of work, but he's wondering and hoping if the experience given recently to Jackson, Jenkins, and Newton, even John Meta, kind of shows some honest hope, or is this a dead cat bounce? He says Mims is clearly a cornerstone. One puzzle, though, why no Tanner McLachlan after Eric All got hurt? I mean, Cam Grandy? Thanks again for all your spectacular content, and hoping that a month or so from now, before the draft silliness starts, you can sip on a bourbon and be supremely proud of the content that encapsulated so many jaw-dropping moments this season.
Wow. See, finished with a flourish. Okay.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate that. The buildup. Let's talk about this draft class a little bit. I think they've gotten more than what you would have wanted from Mims. I mean, the questions about him when he was first picked were real, and he hadn't played a ton, and there were these questions that popped up about his willingness and what his attitude might be like. I think those have all largely been answered. Now, what's happened lately, I think, has maybe brought some of those back to the forefront, but for the most part, I mean, they have really hit there. Okay, so for the first time in a few years, you come out of the rookie year of first-round pick and feel great about him. Been a minute since that's happened. So win there, right? You got to go back. Second round, Chris Jenkins. Not as good as you hoped right now. And I don't know what year 2 looks like, what he needs to do. There's a lot of plays that are awful looks. I mean, him getting planted last week by Denver on a couple of plays, just moved 5 yards and then pancaked into the ground. It was not pretty. You worried about his size a little bit playing inside, coming in. That's shown itself. So disappointing from your second round pick there. Third round pick, Jermaine Burton, as disappointing as it gets. Total bust. Everything's gone sideways. Fair to question whether he'll even be back next year at this point. The other third round pick, McKinley Jackson, though, positive. I think positive there. So you got 2 up, 2 down. All right. One a little further down than you ever would have hoped.
Yeah.
And so that's not terrible. Eric All, love that pick, right? You're taking a bet on the health. That's what this all comes back to. You're going to have the same bet on health that you made when you picked him as you do now, except when healthy, he truly can be a potentially great player, offense-changing player for this team. In a 4th round pick, Josh Newton, potential there. Really gotten better every week since he's been thrust into the lineup. Made a big play last week. He made big rookie mistakes early on, but hey, Tanner McLachlan has not been what they hoped, has not been able to really handle it. No. Cedric Johnson gave you a couple of flashes, got his first career sack last week, looked really good on the play that ended up being the 4th down heave. He could have gotten credit for a pressure on that heave that could have said, hey, that guy, his pressure kind of helped you win the game. How about Cedric Johnson, right? So something there. Dejon Anthony, Matt Lee, the jury's probably still out on those guys. Or 7th round picks, whatever. But that's not a bad first. When you look at that as a whole, that's not a bad contribution from a draft class in terms of hope. You hope to get 3 quality starters out of a draft class, and that is a huge success class. I could see that.
Yeah.
I think you could see that. Mims, All, if he stays healthy, certainly are your top 2 here. I mean, those are your jewels of this class right now. And amongst the others that you had hope for between Jackson and Newton, maybe Jenkins is still, there's still plenty of time there. Johnson, that you could get a third, starter / contributor out of that. I don't think that's unrealistic at this point. And that I don't view it as a nasty draft class. I think this has enough potential and enough foundation after year one to give you some hope for next year.
I mean, the Burton pick, that really could have flipped that,
Oh.
though. If he had made a few more of those plays and showed a willingness to kind of be the player he needed to be, like, this offense could have used that extra juice. And then you're feeling a lot better about this draft class, thinking like, ooh, he could be that extra wrinkle. But yeah, it's just not.
It was always going to be I mean, we said on draft night, I mean, that was the big dice roll pick, and snake eyes on that, because it could not have gone worse.
I mean, they had so many draft picks, so it's, you got to take a few of those chances sometimes. But it is hard. That's a high profile one too. And
if that hits,
it did not.
You don't have. If that hits, you don't have to pay T. Higgins what they're going to have to consider paying T. Higgins. I mean, that's part of the new setup that they have now. I mean, they took a third round. They knew they were taking a receiver early in that draft for the sake of hoping that guy in year two would be able to make you feel comfortable watching T. Higgins walk out the door. And now you feel real uncomfortable at the idea of watching T. Higgins walk out the door. And a big reason is because of that bust.
Yeah. And I wonder how much of that is, Joe Burrow banging the table for T. Higgins. Is that, probably it's got to be somewhat on that, right? The fact that Burton was supposed to be part of the future and is not somebody that he can trust. Like, that would make me want my guys to stick around for as long as we could keep them, for sure.
Know what you have in-house. Invest in what you know, right? You didn't know Jermaine Burton, and you learned when he came here. You know what you have in T. Higgins. Are they going to learn that lesson?
Our next question is from Chris. He says, another longtime listener here. He says, anyways, my question is, if we let Lou go, how about Al Golden as a replacement? The former linebacker coach, now Notre Dame defensive coordinator.
Hey, someone's been paying attention like that. That is, if that is the direction that they go with Lou Anarumo, he's on the list. He is high on the list, because not only has he done an incredible job, almost kind of reinvented himself at Notre Dame a little bit, and turned, up for assistant coach coordinator of the year in college football, and deservedly so. And you saw that on display last night against Georgia. He's been doing that all year. You're also talking out there. You're proudly wearing your Notre Dame gear, of course. I see you.
Yep.
I see you over there. But he's been excellent. He was under Zach Taylor. They know him as well as anybody. Al Golden was the linebackers coach here in 20 and in 21 in the Super Bowl year. You know who played great in 21? The linebackers. Young linebackers played great. And Al Golden has been a head coach on the college level at multiple places. He's been a leader of rooms. He can do that. You know who he is. You're comfortable. He has connected with young players as he's gone to Notre Dame and shown he can do that. Something that's going to be a big part of what you would be looking for out of an answer for somebody you brought in. There's respect there. It's automatically a part of the success that he's had. He would make a ton of sense if you were looking at the list of who that could be. There's plenty of other big names, bigger names even, on that list. But he's very much included, in the comfort that they would have in knowing who he is, and a lot of the players knowing who he is, and comfort with the staff would go a long way there.
Are you ready for an ambush light question?
Let's go. Ambush me.
All right, here we go. Happy New Year. He says, first off, what's the statute of limitations on that? Do you get the whole week or the month? I think it's just whenever your new flag goes up. That's when you have
it's a flag situation. Yep. We've established once you start Monday morning at 6 a.m., it's over.
Now, he says, anyway, with Zach making the dumbest decision since Napoleon invading Russia in winter by not kneeling and telling Chase Brown to run but not score, which resulted in an awkward slide/tackle injury. Have you guys ever been put in a position to fail by management? And if so, what did you do?
I mean,
throw your bosses under the bus.
I don't know about fail by management. We were talking about the newspaper industry earlier. I feel like we were all put in a position by, I can take shots at Gannett.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Gannett put the entire newspaper industry in a position to fail when you just lay people off and think you're going to just fire your way to success while the head of the company collects $33 million bonuses. Yeah, Great. You've put us all in position to fail as an entire newspaper and as an industry. It never had a real shot because you never invested in people. You just kept laying people off to pad your own pockets. That, my friends, is called setting people up to fail. What did I do? I got out. I joined The Athletic. Let's go over to some forward-thinking people, please. Thank you very much. And look, still sustaining, bought out by the New York Times, profitable. I still have a job. That's what you do. You get the hell out when they're setting you up to fail.
Yeah, you got a successful podcast now. You're thriving.
Right.
You're on top of the world.
We're doing it.
I think that the closest I've come to being set up to fail, I had to do a corporate show at a casino, and the company, this was actually in Cincinnati. And so the boss was like, here's what we're going to do. I want you to wear a suit to this. And it was at their company retreat. So it's like a 2-day thing, and they're in a conference room and the people are bored. He's like, I'm going to introduce you as an economic analyst who has a 72 slide presentation. Then you're going to fake them out and just be the comedian and tell jokes. That's fine if this was like a fully corporate thing, but this was like a communications company. And these guys are all like cable installers and stuff. They're all field techs. Everybody there is in like jeans and hoodies and stuff. They don't give a crap about any of the stuff that's happening, right? And this is on a Sunday afternoon of a 2-day thing. So they lost their weekend to this dumb retreat. The boss had flown in from a different city. Most people were regional. Browns and Bengals were both playing games at that time, and so they couldn't watch their team. And so he came up right as he was introducing me. He was like, oh, yeah, I guess a bad day for our Cleveland fans. They just lost on a last-second field goal. And you can see everyone who was taping the game was just throwing their arms up in disgust.
No.
And then he's like, and here's our economic analyst. And so then I trot up in my little suit, and then things start going south pretty quickly. And so I handled that by turning on the boss, and I started making fun of him and his brother that worked for the company. And I kind of really had to walk that line because you don't want to lose the corporate check, right? Because that's a big payday. But you also have to survive the hell situation he just put you in. Like later, I told the agency about it. They're like, we never would have allowed this if we knew he was going to put up these shenanigans and want you to like be in disguise and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I just went in on the boss, and I really walked that line the whole time with not going too far. Everyone was still laughing and having a good time, so he couldn't be too mad about it. But I was just set in a position to fail, so I failed quickly and then just made the pivot. That was like me getting my own podcast, was just attacking the boss verbally from the stage.
Did they invite you back again?
They did not. They had gotten all the economic analysis that they needed for that company.
That was it.
Oh,
I like it. Those corporate gigs are hard to get, aren't they?
They are. Usually an agency will kind of help you with some of those because it's not on your radar usually unless somebody comes straight to you and like, hey, I'm a big fan. Will you come talk to our group here or that sort of thing? But some of them can be great. I've done some great ones that I did one at a Jeff Ruby's once, and now in midday for Kroger, and that was great. They were a very fun group. And then you have some in a casino where you have to go in disguise as an economic analyst and then switch to jokes about the boss. That's just how it goes.
Wait, so you've done like a Kroger like marketing execs or whatever. I prefer the idea of you work like when they have the dude playing guitar in Kroger. I hate that guy, by the way. I cannot stand why did we decide this was a place that someone should be playing acoustic guitar? And I feel like I have to, give him the respect to sit there and watch. I'm just trying to get my groceries and get out. I like the idea of you working that space. And just making fun of people as they go by and try to get their bread. Like you have a better chance of being someone that would be enjoyable there because you can just make fun of everything that everybody's seeing and no one feels like they have to stop and watch or listen or whatever. This is what I need. This is what I want.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. And when you walk into the Kroger, at our Kroger, we have a cello player, and it's like everything's just more expensive when you have that. That's all you know. It's not making it better. It's just making it more expensive. You pay for that guy somewhere. I don't know if comedian is the right thing for the Kroger's in-store entertainment. If you just get a guy that's like heckling the contents of your cart, like, oh, really? Fruit Loops? That family
sounds great.
size?
Oh my God. I would hang out. I would hang out for that entire show and just watch you heckle people coming by criticizing their cart.
That would be another one-day engagement, I feel like. You're not getting a return call as you make everyone feel bad about their purchases. Store brand cereal?
Work for Kroger.
Come on.
You work for Kroger and you are a growl pal and you're listening right now. Make Mark do this. Pay Mark so that he can come do this at a Kroger. And in fact, if you could do it at my Kroger, I would really appreciate it. I will be there. You'll have one person who will for sure be there just watching the entire time. I am so in.
All right. You'll be a loyal Kroger customer after that. Whereas before, you're probably shopping around still. You don't know what grocery chain you're going to commit to. Maybe it's the one that's close to you and has all the things that you need. Or maybe you're going to drive farther because they're not willing to have hecklers inside their store. I don't know.
Dude, could be anything. All right. Road trip this week headed to Pittsburgh. I don't know how many people have done the Pittsburgh trip. It's underrated. I know it's like supposed to be blasphemy to say nice things about Pittsburgh. I really like Pittsburgh. I like their downtown. I think their downtown is clean. There's good food there. Obviously, if you are doing any Reds road trip, you should be doing Pittsburgh at some point because PNC Park is the top in the league as far as I'm concerned. And it's drivable and the Reds play there a ton. So if you ever want to do a Reds road trip, if you haven't done Pittsburgh, I recommend it. Also, we usually go, there is an awesome Italian restaurant up on Mount Washington, like up the incline across the river. That little neighborhood up there, it's a little mom and pop Italian place called La Tavola. And it is awesome. It's like a BYOB. They like charge you like $5 uncorking, but they make, it is like, it really tastes like that guy with the Italian accent that greeted me spent all day making the pasta in the back, type of place. It is so good. Highly recommend if you get a chance, get your reservation. We have ours for this evening. I cannot wait to get there. It's going to be awesome.
I don't know. My only hesitance with this would be, and not even the restaurant, but like, I feel like a lot of these AFC North road games are a little tricky because of the vitriol you're going to get in the stands. Like if you're going to watch them play the Chargers, you're going out west. No one's going to give you any grief for that. No one's going to, dump a beer on your head like they might at some of these other stadiums. Although I think that was Arrowhead that we had somebody at the live show complaining about. Yeah, he got the beer dumped on his head. A little bit more of a chance for stuff like that, those kind of shenanigans in Pittsburgh than you would have, in Tennessee for sure.
I don't really have to deal with that, so I can't speak to it specifically. But yes, I've heard enough about Bengals Steelers altercations to know that is probably a little bit bigger risk here. I don't think you'll find that at Reds Pirates.
Yeah, that's
so
sure.
Probably why I recommend if you're going to do Pittsburgh, do it during baseball season.
Growler bet this week was what?
Pittsburgh yards after the catch in the first game, where they notably just checked it down 100 times and the Bengals couldn't stop that. They had 254 yards after the catch, which is the most by any team in a game in the NFL this year. So what will it be this week? Send that to the Growler Podcast at gmail.com. We did not have a winner last week with the Jamar Chase one. So we need to get back on the winning track for the new year. Last game. So get them in now.
Last game of the regular season.
Last game of the regular season. So get those in. The Growler Podcast at gmail.com. Pittsburgh yards after catch. That will be via Pro Football Focus. We'll have that number for you on next week's show.
A couple quick comedy plugs too. If you're listening to this, Growl Pals, February 13th, I'm at the Comedy Attic in Bloomington, Indiana, one of the hidden gems of the comedy country, really. It's a beloved club. Their lineups are incredible. So I'm headlining there February 13th. That's a big one. And then February 15th at Commonwealth Sanctuary. That's just across the river in Dayton, Kentucky. That's another very cool room. So those are the next two big headlining shows that are anywhere close to where most of our Growl Pals live regionally. So get out to those shows. I always love it when I have people at shows on purpose, whether it's from, listening to this podcast or somebody that saw one of my specials or the Nate Land thing. That's way better than like, sometimes I'll ask people in the front row, like, oh, how'd you hear about the show? And they're like, oh, I just Googled comedy show tonight. I got that once. I was like, I just Googled comedy tonight. And I was like, hey, at least I was the first thing that popped up.
Yeah.
He's like, actually, you were the second. The first was sold out, so we had to come here. I'm like, that feels good. That feels good to be the second option.
Isn't your dry bar special free now?
Oh, yeah. My dry bar special is free. You don't have to pay for the streaming service anymore. It's on YouTube. We got over 100,000 views in the first week, so go check that out as well. You can watch that with your kids or your grandma, since it's a clean set, the cleanest I've ever been. So you can watch that with anybody on your TV during the last few days of this holiday season.
Love that. We will. I might have to gather the kids around the television. We'll watch Mark's show.
Yeah, absolutely. My kids liked it.
Exactly.
And it was about them. I was making fun
them.
of them, and they still liked it. What's going on in dad life for you?
Dad life this week. So we, New Year's, we had a fancy dinner. The girls, my oldest has taken a cooking extracurricular at school, and so she's really into like using some of her new cooking skills. So she helped make the dinner, and then my youngest, a little bit of a preview of what probably her attitude in life is going to be on a couple of ways. Her role in this was, if you've ever made risotto, we were making like a nice dinner. So risotto, you need time because you just got to constantly be stirring it. It's one of those that just requires time and attention. It's not hard to do. So it was a perfect task for her. Could you stir the risotto for how long we needed to? Quite a long time. She was so excited to do it. Of course, she had to get into her princess dress. Okay. So princess dress, she made a paper chef hat that said Chef Rosie on it, puts it on. She has one arm on her hip and then the other one with the ladle. And she is just as if posing. I mean, this would have been, she could have done like, I don't know, some sort of Instagram story or reel that would have just been her doing this for probably 30 minutes. And it felt like everyone had a new bit of attitude to it. I mean, she was just, I am going to be the princess who stirs the risotto. I know exactly how to make this look amazing. And she did. She pulled it off. And then soon after, as we were actually eating, we were all going through and talking about what New Year's resolutions are. And then sort of, theirs. And everybody had, like Stanio said, declutter the basement. We're going to work on this project. My oldest wants to learn the guitar and type faster and things like that. And then it comes around to Rosie, my 5-year-old. And she just says, I just want to laugh at more jokes. And I'm like, you know what? This is what we all should be. Let's focus. Forget tasks. There's things you want to do. We should all just laugh more. And I was like, we all need this in our lives to remember. It's okay if your resolution is just, I just want to laugh at the jokes. I agree. And I believe, Mark, if anybody can get behind this strategy, I believe you can get behind this strategy.
Absolutely. Everyone needs to adopt that resolution. Laugh at more jokes, specifically February 13th in Bloomington, Indiana at the Comedy Attic and February 15th at Commonwealth Sanctuary. Laugh at all of those jokes.
Yes, they're good jokes. They're worth paying for. Absolutely. I love it. What do you got?
We are just, school fires up again Tuesday, and every time you get like 2 weeks off, you start to fall into some really bad habits, like it's summer all over again. And I always tell myself it's not going to get that bad. We'll start to ramp up, how early the kids wake up so they can get prepared for that adjustment. And it never happens. My kids are still getting up at 10 a.m. So on Tuesday, when that bus comes at 6:52, that is going to be quite the adjustment for our household. Nobody is prepared for it. And it's gonna hit us like this winter storm is coming. It's gonna be ferocious.
The winter storm, by the way, could come in just the right time for the parents who are just not ready. Like when you've ever said, "Can I just have one more day?" and then it's like, "Yeah, you got it. Maybe two." If the storm comes and it's Monday or Tuesday and the schools can't get you in, hey, keep living your best holiday life. I'm here for that.
Do you have a snow flag that you can raise at that point?
Yes.
All right.
I do, actually, it's Frozen. So the movie Frozen, it has the Let It Snow, and it's Elsa sort of doing her magic. So come on, what kind of amateur hour do you think it is over here that I wouldn't have something to celebrate snow?
Yeah, I was wrong on that. I doubted you after.
By the way, I should have thought of that when I was going through earlier and you were asking me what I'm going to go to when this weekend is up. We probably just answered it here on the podcast. Everybody watched that magic happen in person.
Yeah, and you get to take credit for all the kids getting the snow day because you put up the Let It Snow flag. So
Yes,
you're the hero that we needed.
I will take that. All right. Well, guess what? Next thing you will hear will be the walkout. That will be coming to you on Saturday night, and potentially everybody could be watching on Saturday, and we will see. Maybe it will be another game week, or maybe it will be locker clean out. And hey, it's time to talk a little louder about T. Higgins, as we couldn't possibly do that anymore. And all the offseason decisions that are in front of the Bengals. We have a ton of offseason content that will be coming your way once that actually starts. But I know you're all saying you wouldn't worry about that now. What about all the playoff content? The playoff content can also be coming your way. Reminder, if they make the playoffs, we'll be down at BetMGM Nation Kitchen and Bar for another playoff preview live show will be coming your way. So keep an eye out for all of that. And I hope everybody enjoys the games this weekend. And we will talk to you on the walkout. So have a good one, everybody.